Now, what about the governor on Good Friday, Pontius Pilate? His name shows up in the creed. This is not so much because the Christian church hated him as to document what was happening on that occasion. You know, back in Sunday school days again, I was always so interested in the personality of Pontius Pilate because once again, he's Rome's man in Judea. He comes at the interface between political history and sacred history. He comes right there at the point of tangency. And I was also amazed at the discrepancy I found between the biblical version of Pontius Pilate and Good Friday preaching. The biblical version is almost favorable to Pilate. They show a Roman governor under pressure who's trying every means at his disposal to unload this case. He tries several times, ending the trial, quashing the case for lack of evidence. He tries the Passover amnesty. Shall I release Jesus or Barabbas? He tries change of venue. Hey, let's shove this case over to the court of Herod Antipas. He even beats Jesus, not for purposes of torment, but to win sympathy from the people, and it doesn't work. So he's trying. He's almost acting like Jesus' lawyer for the defense. But our Good Friday sermons, oh, the terrible governor who didn't have the courage of his convictions. You know, he's usually placed a half cut above Judas Iscariot in the bowels of hell. You know, I almost felt like asking, will the real Pontius Pilate please stand up? Who are you, fella? Well, fortunately, the outside evidence helps clarify what's going on. Flavius Josephus tells us there were several episodes in Pilate's life which complicated his role. Once he tried to bring Roman standards into Jerusalem, and that antagonized the Jewish people. Another time he tried to improve the water supply by building an aqueduct into the city. And it didn't become public knowledge that the temple treasury helped subsidize that aqueduct. And then when they found out, they were irate. Another riot took place. And these problems that Pilate is having with the Jewish people were being reported every time by the neighboring ruler, Herod Antipas of Galilee, who was Jesus' ruler, as you recall. He was the final politician in charge of Jesus' life up in Galilee. And he is lusting for Pilate's job. If he can write the Emperor Tiberias in Rome that Pilate is messing up in Judea, well, then Tiberias, who already has Antipas's dossier in his office, might be tempted to sack Pilate and give Herod Antipas Samaria and Judea in addition to his Galilee. Get it? Then the son of Herod the Great, Herod Antipas, would have reconstituted the kingdom of dear old dad, Herod the Great. That's the reason why, 1 year before Good Friday, Herod Antipas tries to entrap Pilate in a brilliant scheme. It's called the Affair of the Golden Roman Standards. Here's what happened. Pilate came into Jerusalem, Passover week, and in the wall behind his desk, he put up 2 golden shields. No images on them. He had had his fingers burnt on the image issue, violation of the second commandment, early in his administration. So these shields had no images, but they did have lettering around the rim, dedicated to Tiberius Caesar, given by Pontius Pilate. Should have been harmless. We don't even know how the news became public. I don't know. I guess some Jerusalem cleaning lady was tidying up Pilate's desk and remembered her high school Latin or something. I don't know. But very shortly, Pilate gets a visit from Herod Antipas and his 3 brothers. And they have a really dumb conversation that goes something like this. Antipas, remember now, Herod Antipas is the one who killed John the Baptist, remember? So the conversation goes something like this. Pilate, you got to take the shields down. And right away, Pilate knew exactly what Antipas was doing. He was placing him between a rock and a hard place. Because look, Pilate can't win now. If Pilate takes the shields down, off goes a letter to Rome, because these shields were nothing but a pledge of allegiance. to the central government. That's all it was. So the letter would have gone to Rome. Dear Emperor Tiberias, guess what your governor just did? He removed his pledge of allegiance to you. Wonder what this means. Or if Pilate didn't take the shields down, off would go letter number 2. Dear Emperor, once again your governor proves he has 2 left feet, yada, 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 and so forth. They would have trumped up some other excuse that had no water, whatever, but Tiberias wouldn't know. He's 1,500 miles away. Pilate did the right thing. He stood his ground. He says, gentlemen, this is a Roman praetorium. Nothing offensive here. You know it. I know it. Thanks for the visit. Bye-bye. He shows him the door. Well, without telling Pilate, they sent off letter number 2. Tiberias at that time is on the island of Capri. He's not minding the store too well. He's not back in Rome. He's kind of paranoid. He's getting old. And without bothering to hear Pilate's side of this, he sends Pilate a letter in very nasty Latin. Pilate, take down those blankety-blank shields, whatever they are, and from now on you're on probation. Do not antagonize your Jewish subjects in any matter affecting their religious beliefs, because if you do, you will have outlived your usefulness in Judea. So now you see the kind of pressure Pilate was under, because he got that letter about 6 months before Good Friday. Now you see why he's got to be very careful never to cross the crowd completely. Now he tries to do the right thing. It doesn't work. He finally says, I'm going to get rid of this case. And the big break came when he heard that Jesus was from Capernaum. Hold it, he said. That's in Galilee. Great. He clears the court. He sends Jesus to the court of Herod Antipas, you recall, in Luke's gospel. And now you see exactly why Pilate does that. He's killing 3 or 4 birds with one stone. It was a beautiful move. Now he doesn't have to bear the responsibility of shedding a prophet's blood, a prophet who had quite a bit of support among the people. If it came to shedding a prophet's blood, however, they had a specialist in town. Herod Antipas already had his hands red with the blood of Jesus' cousin John the Baptist. So if it comes to that, sorry about that, but he will bear the responsibility, not me. And the third reason is this. Maybe if I do something nice to Herod Antipas, he'll quit his endless tattletaling about my performance down here in Judea. Throw the barking dog a bone and maybe he'll shut up. And maybe I can kill the cur with kindness. I can heap coals of fire on his head. Because Antipas was thrilled that Jesus was coming into his courtyard. Why? It was embarrassing. Jesus was the biggest actor around in Galilee, and he hadn't seen the show yet. Obviously, the man is, well, ancient version of David Copperfield. Hadn't seen his show. And now Pilate sends him a couple of box seat tickets. Great. He's thrilled to see Jesus. So he begins his interview with Jesus with a brilliant challenge. Do a miracle. Jesus, of course, was not performing that day. And so Herod sends him back. But Luke has that wonderful verse that explains everything. He says, but Pilate and Herod were made friends that same day, because before this they had been hostile with one another. New Testament doesn't tell us why they were hostile. But do you notice how the episode of the golden Roman shields explains exactly why they were hostile? Explains the motivation behind all these people involved in Good Friday? It's another evidence of where the horizontal approach brings in evidence to the New Testament from the sidelines, which is so good that you don't even see where it blends in. The gears mesh so perfectly that you don't even hear them engage. That shows you how historical this trial was, especially against the background of playing the extra evidence into it. So the prosecution is hard-pressed. Jesus returns. Pilate wants to release him. And so they finally say, if you release this man, you are not Caesar's friend. Whoever makes himself a king, speaks treason against Caesar. At that point, Pilate has had it, and he says, Staurathato, let him be crucified. What changed his mind at that point? It is political blackmail of the first water. You can just hear. I'll bet the full statement went like this. And by the way, we do not have a complete transcript of the trial of Jesus of Nazareth. We have everything we need, but we don't have every last word because there wasn't one of these stenographers around doing one of these machines. No videotapes either. But I'll bet the full statement went something like this. If you release this man, Pilate, we'll send another letter to Rome. No, we'll send a delegation this time. And we will hang you up on 2 charges. Harboring a traitor who claims to be king, and we have no king but Caesar. And secondly, failing to uphold all our religious laws, as Tiberias warned you to do in that letter you just got 6 months ago. And if he decided in our favor as something as simple as a couple of golden shields, imagine how much more he will support our cause against someone who claims to be the Son of God and thereby ruins our monotheism. You, Pilate, will lose your membership in that club, the Friends of Caesar. And there was such a club. You got a golden ring with the emperor's image on, and you never lost membership in that club except for high treason. And so now it's either Jesus or himself, and Pilate opts for number 1 and sentences Jesus to the cross. In the next segment, we'll talk about the process of crucifixion and the glorious news of the resurrection.